Hello, everybody, and welcome to Nature's Source Care. My name is Dr. Fonda Bowman. I'm a naturopathic physician. In today's talk, I was going to discuss the medicinal benefits of ginger, or Zingiber officinale, as it's known as in Latin. This is part of my kitchen pharmacy series, where I discuss different kitchen ingredients, herbs and fruits and vegetables and things like that, and their medicinal properties. Before I get into the talk, I just wanted to thank everybody for their support of my work in the channel. So whether you come here and watch videos or subscribe or like or post lovely comments or send in donations, all of it's very much appreciated. So thank you for all of that. Note beforehand, the information presented here is for educational purposes only and should not be considered medical advice. For any symptoms that persist or worsen, please consult with a qualified medical professional. It's always best to determine the root cause of any disease and to develop a comprehensive treatment plan. And while botanical medicine or nutritional remedies can be very effective, they may not be appropriate for everyone or as a single therapy. Also, keep in mind the two most common side effects of any plant-based medicine are digestive upset and skin itching. Okay, so if you're into this kind of thing, where I talk about, the kitchen pharmacy, so right, in my mind, whenever I get sick or have a boo-boo or whatever, the first place I go is my kitchen. And so I'm trying to share that information about the different medicinal properties of kitchen spices and herbs and fruits and vegetables and things like that. So for more content like this, I would check out my botanical medicine, nutrition, and kitchen pharmacy playlist. Okay. The information presented here is actually based on my book titled Drink for Your Health, Medicinal Teas, Juices, and Milks from Around the World. If you ever want a copy, it's available on Amazon. And the reason why I took, the time to write that book is because it actually integrates nutritional information from three different paradigms of medicine. So Ayurveda, traditional Indian medicine, naturopathic medicine, or traditional natural medicine, and then the Western modern paradigm. Cool. So my channel, my YouTube channel, is all about playlists. So each playlist is essentially a course on different topics in natural medicine. So you might take a look at my playlist, like I have an Ayurveda, traditional Indian medicine playlist, aromatherapy, which is Ayurvedic acupressure. And I've taught all 107 points there. So if you want to learn that, that's all available too. Yoga meditation, homeopathy, Bach flower remedies as part of a subset of homeopathy, nutrition, botanical medicine, hydrotherapy or the therapeutic use of water, body care, and cleansing, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual. So hopefully I'm providing a lot of good information for people to learn from. Okay, so now on to ginger, Zingiber officinale in Latin. The part that's used medicinally is the root. Okay. And you can use either the infusion or decoction method. If you're not familiar with the different ways of, making teas, I have a video titled "Different Methods for Making Medicinal Teas," so you can check that out to understand the difference between an infusion and decoction. Okay. So, from an Ayurvedic perspective, traditional Indian medicine, ginger is mostly because it's a hot herb, will help with vata or wind, as it's loosely translated, which typically produce cold and dry symptoms. It will increase pitta or fire because it's hot, and it will decrease kapha or earth energy because earth energy is cold and wet. So again, the main, kind of characteristic of ginger is it's hot. So it will help with some things, and with other things, it will actually be contraindicated, which I'll talk about at the end here. Okay. So again, from the Ayurvedic perspective, and if you're not into Ayurveda, you can skip all this part and just move on to the next line. But Ayurveda is or ginger, sorry, has pungent, bitter, astringent, and sweet taste. It's heating in nature, and it's also pungent. Yeah. Okay. So for the nervous system, what ginger can potentially do is help with pain. It's also an antispasmodic. It depends on the pain, though. So if it's like an inflammatory pain, that might not be the best. But if it's like a colicky type pain, if it's like a degenerative type pain, if it's a swelling type pain, those are the kinds of pain that are better helped by ginger. Right. And I do actually have like a video on like how to on like the Ayurvedic perspective on pain because I think it's quite different from Western notions of pain. I don't think the Western paradigm really gives you different sorts of pain. Like sometimes they'll get into like the root cause, but that's different than the sort of type of pain like wind, fire, earth, and because Ayurveda again different paradigm. So anyway, also ginger is an antispasmodic, and that's mostly because it's warm. So when muscles, for example, are spasming, that's usually an indication that there's too much wind in the body or too much vata. So the respiratory system, probably a lot of people know ginger for this kind of stuff. A cold, cough, flu, congestion especially, because congestion is a sign of too much kapha or earth. It's that thick, sticky, it's a cold, wet symptom, sticky stuff. And the warmness of ginger will help to essentially kind of dissolve it. Yeah. Wheezing is essentially a wind type symptom. So when somebody's wheezing and their bronchioles or the small muscles, smooth muscle and the bronchioles are spasming and they can't open up the, tippy top points of their lungs, and so they can't get a full breath that way. Um, Ginger potentially can help with that. Okay. Sore throat, generally speaking, especially if it's kind of like a dull, achy type of sore throat. If it's a sore throat from something like reflux, I would not use ginger. Okay. And allergies, again, because of it can, allergy is essentially a symptom of too much earth for the most part because of the swelling. But then it can also trigger like asthma and wheezing. So for that reason, ginger can be helpful. But again, you don't necessarily want to overdo it because allergies are also essentially like the congestion that's, is produced in people's bodies, when there's like a cold or flu or something like that. Essentially, the reason why the body's doing that is it's almost like you can think of like a fire extinguisher foam. That's kind of like what congestion is. This, slimy, wet, sticky stuff is there to cool irritated, dry, and inflamed tissue. Okay, so ginger can help a bit. You just don't want to overdo it and keep like irritating the tissues more if that's what's essentially, again, generating the congestion. Okay. Cardiovascular system benefits: improve circulation, increases vasodilation, diaphoresis. So what that means is it will make you sweat because it'll bring the blood to the top level of the skin. And by doing that, what happens is the blood can release heat. So especially potentially for mild fevers, but you got to be careful with high fevers. Ginger would not, again, would be too hot for that. Atherosclerosis and hypercholesterolemia, because ginger has a little bit of a scraping effect. And again, it has a little bit of a dissolving effect. Now, it's not going to help you, again, if you're, eating lots of shellfish and butter and, other high cholesterol foods, you still have to manage that. But it can be a helper to a certain degree. Okay. Gastrointestinal issues, so indigestion, nausea. Again, depending on what's causing the nausea, it might be from travel or motion sickness. It might also be from morning sickness for women. Some types of abdominal pain, again, as long as it's not related to high levels of inflammation or bleeding. Also constipation and gas, because constipation and gas typically are signs of too much vata or wind. So the heat from the ginger helps to modify that. Musculoskeletal system, so arthritis, like a lot of people will take ginger, for that. I don't know. I actually see probably more people bringing in topical creams with ginger in them, more than drinking ginger on a regular basis for arthritis. But, essentially from an Ayurvedic perspective, the energetics are the same, whether you apply it topically or internally. But if you had reflux and arthritis simultaneously, you might think about like a topical form of ginger instead of an internal form of ginger. Immune system, ginger does have antibacterial properties. Again, depends on the bacteria and depends on the load of the bacteria. Sometimes, again, it's not just about, killing the bacteria or viruses or fungus or whatever. You have to really boost up the person's overall health and immune system so that their body can essentially fight infections like that. But potentially, like small things, maybe if you're starting to feel a little sick, fluish or coldish or whatever, maybe a cup or two of ginger, who knows, it might kind of stave things, kind of prevent things from blowing up, depending on, again, person circumstances. For women, I mentioned morning sickness, but also ginger can be pretty helpful with menstrual cramps. Menstrual cramps are essentially a sign of too much vata or wind again, and because of the heat of the ginger, it's almost like when some women use a hot water bottle or heating pad or something on their, whatever is hurting them during their menstrual cycle, their stomach or their back or their legs, that sort of thing. This might be a good thing to help with those sorts of cramps. I would not take ginger, though, if you get menstrual migraines, because migraines are a sign of too much or fire. Okay. Um, Generally speaking, so general properties of ginger is that, again, it's slightly detoxifying. That's why it's helpful with things like atherosclerosis and hypercholesterolemia, coldness in general. So some people have cold hands or feet, or they're always kind of cold, and it'll help warm you up. Also, again, because of the heat of ginger, like it's more of a cold weather type of herb. Like this is something you might want to stay away from more so during hot weather, like summertime and that sort of thing. Ginger's used as flavoring in many, many things. It also helps to digest certain foods like yogurt, beans, wheat, tea, and sweets. So if you have trouble digesting those things, adding a little bit of, pinch of fresh ginger might be helpful. Okay. So because I mentioned ginger's quite a hot herb, you got to be careful with it. And dried ginger is a lot hotter than fresh ginger. So fresh ginger tends to be milder and more balanced for all constitution types and conditions. Okay. I don't suggest dried ginger for very many people. And you should be careful too, because sometimes like you get these packets of tea, like a chai tea latte type, instant packet stuff or whatever. A lot of these things have dried ginger in them, or dried ginger's added to a different medley of spices or whatever. Again, if you have something like reflux or inflammation, that may not be ideal for you. Okay, so as I've sort of been alluding to, ginger's contraindicated in any kind of high pitta situation, high inflammation or fever situation. Ulcers and reflux, again, something like ginger can make that worse. Inflammatory skin disease, because again, the heat can make the inflammation worse. Gallstones potentially, because ginger can stimulate um, the bile ducts in the liver and gallbladder. So again, depending on what's going on there, um, usually ginger, like other digestive herbs, may be better, even though ginger helps with digestion. And some amount of stimulation is good. Like you might actually use like more neutral temperature herbs or potentially even cooler herbs because things tend to heat up. At least that's what I do with my patients typically. Bleeding, again, bleeding is a sign of too much pitta or too much fire typically, so that's not a good idea, especially because ginger increases circulation. So if you're trying to stop bleeding, you don't want to like infuse, areas with more blood because you'll bleed more. Um, and also for pregnancy, even though I mentioned it's good for things like morning sickness, you want to use low doses in pregnancy. You don't want to overdo the ginger. Other things may be necessary, like you might really need to look at your diet. That's the again for most of us the overall diet, not just like one tea, because if you're doing like a lot of fried food or other kind of spicy food or sometimes even dry food because that can like literally just physically irritate like the throat or the esophagus. Those sorts of things may be the cause of the reflux, and then you put ginger on there, and it's just it just burns like crazy. So if you're liking a lot of the benefits of ginger, but you're thinking ginger might be too hot for you, especially if you have a pitta constitution or you have a lot of inflammation, you might consider cinnamon as an alternative because cinnamon has a lot of similar effects to ginger, but it's less liked and usually more tolerable for people. And generally, you can use a lot more cinnamon than ginger without getting like, the side effects of, GI irritation or that sort of thing. Okay. So there you go. Ginger. Now now you have a new medicine, or at least you're aware of another medicine in your kitchen and cupboard. Okay, so as I mentioned, this presentation is based on my book, Drink to Your Health, Medicinal Teas, Juices, and Milks from Around the World. If you ever want a copy, it's available on Amazon. I do have another YouTube channel. That's on Vedic astrology or ancient Indian astrology that's more than 5,000 years old. And that YouTube channel is Light Vedic Astrology. That's the name of it. A lot of the pictures I have in my YouTube videos, actually, I've taken myself, as I've been a professional photographer for many years. And I do have an online photography gallery gift shop, so if that's ever interesting, if you're looking for, unusual gifts or unique gifts for somebody or yourself, you might check that out, and you have the link here. Okay. So as always, I hope you found this talk helpful, useful, and interesting to you, as you're looking to balance and improve your health and overall wellness and well-being. All right. So take good care. Until the next one. Namaste.